Everyone else is doing it, so we will as well, as we will be reviewing I Am Racist. Sorry, am I racist? Oh, God.
What is racism?
Martin Luther King said not to judge people by the...
Martin Luther King said a lot of stuff.
Yep, I caved. I saw the movie that everyone is talking about right now, and I have some very interesting things I want to say about it, as of course a lot of people are cheering on its praise, but I actually have some criticisms to make of this particular movie, as I think it comes at a very perfect time, especially during a political election cycle where a lot of people are hyper-focused specifically about race. An issue that has been becoming more of an issue ever since Occupy Wall Street, where I think a lot of powerful people were really kind of rattled and pissed off and now thought of new schemes in order to divide and conquer our society. And that's exactly what they did. Now, as you know, I have my fair criticisms of the Daily Wire here, but they are making a lot of major moves, and having this movie be available to the wider American public and to be in movie theaters is a huge freaking deal. To have the movie critics respond like they are, to have the corporate media respond like they are to this, as people in droves are coming to actually see this movie and pay for it, really does highlight what I think is a larger cultural victory that does deserve to be noted and respected. Also, no spoiler alerts here as well during this broadcast. I didn't just want to talk about this movie, but also the larger kind of conversations that it has started in my own personal mind that I'm going to extrapolate on. I want to fairly review it, and I want to, of course, do a larger deep dive on this very specific issue, which, sadly, a lot of people are very scared to have an honest conversation about. And even the way that Matt Walsh's film kind of approached this does kind of show a larger tiptoeing, although some people argue that was the kind of method here in order to give the rope to a lot of these race hucksters that are enriching themselves tremendously through just saying all people bad because they were born a specific way, essentially doing everything that they're preaching not to be. And that hypocrisy is very easy to highlight, very easy to see, and something that this movie absolutely drives home in a pretty good way. We'll talk about that in a little bit, as I also thought it did a couple things that were wrong and were the right personal approach that I would personally take on this personal endeavor. Now, the movie is gaining Daily Wire a lot of funding, as they are now reportedly earning close to $5 million, as the movie is now opened in 1,517 movie theaters nationwide. And it right now is at the number 4 spot at the box office its opening weekend. And it's one of the reasons why I decided to see it, in order to show my support for this larger conversation that I think is more important than ever to have in this particular country, especially after the major damage that was done to race relations after the corporately infused BLM movement caused riots all throughout this country. This, as when you go to Google and you type in race in America, the first thing that's kind of highlighted to you is that the population of the United States is becoming more diverse. What does more diverse mean? As we saw in the beginning of I Am Racist, one of these woke people literally says, yeah, diverse means anything but white, which kind of bastardizes the definition of diversity. If you want a diversity, you want a whole bunch of everybody, not just less of one particular race or one particular color. As the first thing Google shows you is how the percentage of people who identify as white alone in combination with other groups are decreasing, and have decreased more than 10% in a span of about 10 years. As in 2010, it was 72.4% of the U.S. population. 2021, it is 61.6%. Something that very oddly by the corporate media establishment is being celebrated and cheered on by very powerful people. It's, of course, I think it's right. That's a little weird, okay? Hey, there's less of these people. Yeah! Wait, hold on. Hold on. Why are you doing that? And why is that okay? That seems to be a question that is never asked here, never really started, as of course there are new forms of discrimination that are happening all throughout the United States that are absolutely important to pay attention to. As new jobs reports are coming out from S&P 100 corporations, and they're clearly highlighting how, in the name of equity, some of the top 100 corporations in the United States hired 94% of people of color and only 6% of white people, as of course white people make up the majority of the population, clearly highlighting racial discrimination based upon people's skin color. Not about their merit, not about their qualities, not about if they're capable or good for the job, but clearly there were larger kind of DEI discriminatory hiring efforts here that made it an issue to, of course, discriminate people because of the way that they were born, essentially bringing back kind of racist policies that clearly are racist since they deny opportunities to people who are qualified for the jobs but will be denied of them because of the way that they were born. Why are we doing this? Well, because there has been a bastardized conversation that has been taken over here in the United States by some absolute crazy lunatics. As the argument is being made, white people have all the money. White people have all the power. When in reality, you look at the numbers and you look at median household incomes in the United States by ethnic groups, it's actually Indian Americans that make more than white Americans. It's also Filipino Americans, Taiwanese Americans, Sri Lankan Americans, Japanese Americans, Malaysian Americans, Chinese Americans, Pakistani Americans that all make, according to the median household income numbers, more than white Americans. As of course, why aren't these numbers discussed more, says Wall Street Silver. These are the ethnic diverse populations that, of course, are also getting priority in the job market, priority in the education system, and are earning more. As it's fair to say, the United States wasn't as race obsessed as it was right after Occupy Wall Street, a movement that, of course, we documented from the very first days of here on this particular YouTube channel, which you could go and see the start of, the evolution of, and the larger consequences of it. As a lot of people on the left, a lot of people on the right came together and said, hey, there's a lot of economic injustice here. Hey, the Federal Reserve banking system that just prints money and gives it to Wall Street and all these other secret billionaire trillion dollars levels of clandestine bailouts that are happening here are kind of unfair to the average Joe just trying to survive here. And that left and right kind of combination that slowly was usurped, in my opinion, and became a left-wing dominated movement sent shockwaves, especially after the 2008 banking crisis that was spurred on by reckless Republican Party policies that spent more on war rather than, of course, allowing the average citizen to actually keep their own money. And it's fair to say that Occupy Wall Street scared the crap out of a lot of very powerful people. And ever since Occupy Wall Street, when people started to draw attention to the real power structure in this country, what happened? Well, the corporate media, specifically the New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal, all started to obsess about racism, gay marriage, LGBTQ ideology, and of course everything else that is absolutely divisive in our society and has people fighting each other culturally within it. As of course a lot of people are saying, it's fascinating that race became a major issue right after Occupy Wall Street. As of course the mainstream media led the way with other very powerful institutions that are now openly discriminating against people, really does highlight a larger kind of hijacking here and a major pivot in American culture where the media was forced to talk about economic disparity and now was forced to solely talk about racism. As now many of the same leftists are cheering for the same corporatist policies that the people that they previously protested are now cheerleading. And again, a lot of this is not an accident. I saw it on the ground. I saw its evolution. I saw its hijacking. And it's something to, of course, speak volumes about that I could go on for many hours. But that's not the point of this particular video, as we still have more details to get into about Matt Walsh's film here related about this very important particular subject. As now, to add insult to injury, a lot of the people who are now obsessed about hating themselves or focused about other people's differences, which they never really kind of were beforehand. And trust me, I traveled all over the frickin' world. America is one of the least racist countries in the world. There are a lot of really racist people not in America, in Africa, especially. You look at what's happening between the South Africans and the Zimbabweans. Holy frickin' cow. The Koreans and the Japanese. Man, oh man, the Chinese. I've been to China before. Yo! You have no idea how wild stuff gets in other parts of the world. And coming here to America, I say it's one of the most racially cohesive, one of the least racist places on the entire world. And I don't say that lightly. I say that from a lot of experience, literally being all over the frickin' world. And to have conversations specifically talking about these issues in such a bastardized way that promotes victimhood, that promotes self-hate, is something that is one of the most obscene and ridiculous things that I have seen in my life. As, of course, the conversation continues, specifically in many Western countries where these same media publications are talking about how it is shameful to have children. As in the same moment and breath almost, these same media publications are talking about the values of opening up the borders and allowing people to go into your country. As Elon Musk has recently pointed an LA Times article describing it as extinctionists that wants to end all of humanity. As, of course, specifically, a lot of these advertisements always have white people pictured there. There's a lot of effort specifically to make the weather gooder, specifically highlight white people and their demand to have them specifically no longer have children, while at the same time cheering the praises of cultural diversity and saying, yeah, let's import the third world that is not having this kind of severe problem with population levels, with reproduction rates and birth rates. As, of course, the corporate media now is talking about the racist rhetoric surrounding Haitians in a small town in Ohio after 20,000 of them have been placed there by the U.S. federal government. As, of course, we were talking about Springfield, Ohio, where the corporate media is now obsessively talking about, oh, there's bad rhetoric here. Not the fact that 20,000 people were sent there in order to replace the local population. As one of the criticisms I would have of Matt Walsh's film is that, in my opinion, it didn't go hard enough. There's a lot of things about this specific conversation that I wish were kind of heard here, that I wish were kind of discussed in a more kind of like, whoa, hey, this is kind of a very serious issue and a very serious problem here that we should absolutely address. And for me personally, and some people might disagree with me, I was hoping when I was watching that movie, there would have been at least some kind of moment where he kind of stripped off the disguise that wasn't really a disguise. He just kind of had a fake wig. That's all he did. He had a fake wig. And he was able to pay a lot of these kind of race hucksters and these DEI priestesses thousands of dollars to appear on camera. And he actually highlighted how much he was paying each of these people that appeared in his movie to particularly lecture people about how bad they are for being white. And the only criticism I have here is that it was kind of repetitive. It was the same kind of thing over and over and over again. And I thought they could have changed it up. The last bit, I won't ruin the surprise here, and I don't want to give any kind of spoiler, did change it up a little bit, but overall, the majority of the movie is just that kind of bit that you kind of see highlighted here in the trailer. It's like, okay, let's go pay these people, let them sit down and talk about their nonsense. And there's a lot of nonsense, and there's a lot of bigotry, and there's a lot of just sensationalistic kind of dribble of them talking about how everything is so unfair, as Matt Walsh literally puts how much money he's paying these people. As one of the people was paid $50,000 to appear in his show. Now, in my opinion, if you're paying $50,000 to have one of these people, this is, for me, at least how I would have approached it, take off the disguise, confront some of these people and be like, are you understanding just how absolutely ridiculous, awful, and hateful you are yourself? And I kind of wanted that kind of larger feeling. Now, I understand the argument on the other side that this was a movie where these people were given the rope in order to, of course, symbolically take themselves out. And I think it's a fair assessment. But just for me personally, I think there could have been a more powerful kind of punch at the end with like, hey, let's just stop pretending I'm one of you guys. This is who I am. This is stupid. Now, again, that might not work. And the better strategy could have been Matt Walsh's strategy here. And I absolutely agree with that sentiment. Now, a lot of what was happening here was also very improvised. And I thought some of it could have been done with more kind of long-term strategy, as it did kind of seem like the filmmakers were just playing out a bunch of different kind of scenarios and different kind of themes. And then we saw Matt Walsh kind of change characters and play into this pretend character sometimes. Sometimes he didn't, especially in this kind of scene that we're highlighting here. And it kind of led to less of a more cohesive kind of larger picture of what we were all kind of experiencing in the movie theaters. Now, a lot of people are saying that they were laughing their butts off. There were a couple moments where I laughed. Was it an absolutely hilarious movie? No. Was it funny? Yeah. Am I going to tell you it was the funniest movie of the year? No. And again, I'm just trying to be, completely honest and transparent with you guys. Is it a Hollywood blockbuster, awesome Borat-style movie that is like Borat? When it comes to the levels of kind of sophistication and comedy and humor, no. Is it the best that alternative independent media has? Absolutely, and it's far superior than anything else that people in our market could ever produce, and it's one of the best that the market in our media sphere, in our group, has ever produced. Yes. And I don't just want to come off as a hater because again, some people are going to say, oh, you're just nitpicking here. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do when you're critiquing stuff, when you're reviewing stuff. And overall, the conversations that were started here, absolutely critically important. And even though it didn't have that kind of last hurrah, that last kind of gut punch, that last kind of, hey, you're all mentally deranged here, even though it didn't have that last kind of satisfactory moment, I still think for the larger kind of culture war, for the larger kind of battles that we are all involved in, especially with how bastardized this conversation has become, that it is critical for people to kind of go out there, show support for it, and especially bring your normie friends. I made sure I brought a lady friend of my own, and her perspectives were pretty interesting as well. She also highlighted how, those people were absolutely crazy that Matt Walsh highlighted here, but also highlighted how the end could have crescendoed a lot better through, of course, some kind of larger kind of realization, confrontation, or just more of the honing in the message than more than just the usual kind of generic MLK kind of message that you're kind of left with after watching the show. Now, again, it's an important message, and I think a message that we could go back to, that is important to highlight, that is important to talk about. And overall, if we're judging it on movies in the movie theaters, I give it like a B, to be fair. When I'm rating it for movies from people in our sphere, A+++++++. Really good movie. Unless you're nitpicking like I am right now, unless you're just being hypercritical like I am, still a worthwhile watch, especially with your normie friends that normally wouldn't watch this. As I think the strategy of having these people speak, mocking it and laughing at is something that is absolutely important. And if you agree with that, share this video with your friends and family members. We're going to be discussing this movie plus a lot more with you guys in real life this Friday, 7 p.m. in Miami for members of LukeUnfiltered.com. Yes, you heard that correctly. We're doing a meetup in South Beach this Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, just for members of LukeUnfiltered.com, as you also get exclusive videos just for members alone, 3 master classes, and a whole slurry and plethora of offers of value and really incredible things just for members, just for signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com, which you could do for just as low as $8 a month. You could also call into our live podcast show, and we're going to have a lot of really awesome, incredible guests in studio this week, well, tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Dinesh D'Souza on. You could actually speak to Dinesh D'Souza and a bunch of other people just by simply signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com, as you get the ability to call in, video call in to our live show and actually be a part of it. Again, that's one of like the 20 things we offer you for becoming a member of LukeUnfiltered.com. We need your support more than ever. We're dealing with insurmountable pressures and fights that you cannot even understand. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes I can't talk about right now that are trying to take us out, that might take us out. So sincerely, we need your support more than ever. I'll speak about this more. It's been an absolutely crazy, chaotic week. Like, I broke down, like literally broke down this week with the levels of pressure, the levels of severity and stuff that I'm dealing with that are not easy to deal with. Your support is the thing that keeps me going. I wouldn't be here for 20 plus years if it wasn't for you guys doing that. And that's why I truly appreciate you guys and I want to give back. That's why we're doing a meetup. I want to meet you guys. I want to shake your hands. We'll talk about this movie. We'll talk about other stuff in real life, 7 p.m. this Friday, just for members of LukeUnfiltered.com. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on YouTube.com/WeAreChange.